Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mr. Salick Does Art. I'm your host, Mr. Salick. Let's do some art. So today what I wanted to do was something that you maybe have done a long time ago. It's maybe something that you did when you were a little kid, you were in preschool, and that is take a leaf, or leaves, and what you're going to be doing is doing rubbing impressions. So you might have remembered this from when you were a kid, or maybe when you go to the Natural History Museum, they have stuff like this, where there are parts that are raised up, and then you put a piece of paper over it, and then you rub with your crayon or colored pencil and make an impression. So I did a couple warm-ups here with a bunch of leaves that I gathered. And as you can see, I'm just trying out different colors. I'm trying out different leaves. And one thing that I learned from my warm-up here is that what you want to do when you're gathering your leaves for this exercise is you want to find bigger leaves. I feel like bigger leaves work a little bit better, not the little tiny ones. And you want to find leaves that have some ridges, some parts that go up and down, have some nice geometry. If you have ones that are all the way flat, you won't get as interesting as an impression. So this is a very basic form of printmaking, and a lot of times with printmaking, it's all about process and pressure. So what you're doing, it takes a little bit of practice, but you're getting that pencil and you're going sideways. I'll do my best to demonstrate here in a little bit, but you're going sideways, not straight up and down, but sideways, so that you can get a little bit of pressure going, and then whenever it hits those ridges of the leaf, it hits those little ridges, that you get the impression where that pencil hits that part of the leaf, that pressure, and that makes the result you see here. So pretty simple video today. Like I said, you've probably done this a long time ago, but now's as good a time to do something like this. So when you are gathering leaves for your artwork, a couple things I want to go over just to be safe. So number one, for sure, make sure you're on your own property or your own parents' property. Don't go wandering off into a stranger's yard, or make sure at least you have permission. Try to get stuff that's on your own property, wherever you live, your house or your apartment. I actually live at a house and I have a bunch of different kinds of leaves. So I got all sorts of different kinds of leaves back here, a bunch of different kinds. So that was good because now I have a better understanding of what works and what doesn't. Another thing is be careful about poison ivy. I gotta say that here. Leaves of three, let them be. So in other words, if they're leaves that you probably should just go Google poison ivy if you don't know what poison ivy looks like, and poison oak while you're at it. Make sure you don't put your hands on poison ivy. That would be bad. And then another thing is you might be looking at leaves and you forget where you are, that you're in nature. So just look around and make sure there's no ant mounds or snakes or other critters that are going to be around you. Just be careful when you're outside foraging for leaves, that you're not somewhere you shouldn't be, and somewhere where you're going to get bit, or you're going to get a rash or something. Other than that, just have a good time. It's nice to kind of forage around in nature to make some art. So try to look for leaves that have ridges that come up and have some good three-dimensionality, some good geometry, so that you can do your rubbings. So here's the one I started that I showed you here, where you have some layering, different colors. And then I started another one here, and I'll do my best to see if I can demonstrate the process and try to fill up the whole page. So let's see how it goes. So here I have a leaf, and what you want to do is you want to get where the side that has the most geometry, as in the one that's more raised up. It's probably more the bottom of the leaf than the top of the leaf. You put it underneath the page. You take your colored pencil or crayon, and you're just going to put it on its side and give it some pressure. It's kind of a balance. You don't want to have too much pressure, but you want to make sure you have enough. And what it's going to do is it's going to create an impression of that leaf object. And of course you can do this with all sorts of things, but because leaves are readily available and usually free. They are a good material to use for this type of artwork. And then you get something that looks like that. So I'm going to go ahead and fill up the page, and we'll see what it looks like, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, finished here, and as you can see, I filled up the whole page. A couple things I want to go over before we wrap up here today. If you start pressing down really hard and over time when you're doing your rubbings on the paper and smushing that leaf down, it's going to eventually flatten out a little bit, and it won't be as good for an impression over time. So you might find that it looks really good in the beginning, and then you do a bunch of them, and then now that leaf is kind of flattened out, so it doesn't have as good of the contrast, the light and dark of that shape of your leaf. Also that you want to think about, excuse me, the direction you're going, because you might find that this way works better than this way for whatever reason. And I think I already mentioned colors. Sometimes one color looks better than the other. So just try out different things, see what works. A lot of times with art, it's just all about problem solving and figuring out what works best. Thanks for joining me today on another episode of Mr. Salick Does Art. I'll see you next time. Have a good day.